Start living like you understand your worth, like you've finally realized that love, respect, and loyalty are not rewards for tolerance. They are not given to those who merely survive mistreatment with a smile. They are earned, exchanged, and reciprocated by people who know how to give as much as they take. If someone is only present when it benefits them, they are not a friend, a partner, or an ally. They are an opportunist, and the longer you keep them close, the more they will drain your strength and distract you from your purpose. The truth is hard, but necessary. Some people do not care about your growth. They fear it, because the stronger you become, the less power they have over you. That's why they belittle your ambitions. That's why they mock your standards. That's why they change the subject when you talk about your progress. Their silence is not indifference, it's discomfort. Your evolution threatens their comfort zone. And instead of rising with you, they try to keep you grounded in who you used to be. Not because they hate you, but because they need you to stay small to feel secure. But you weren't born to play small. You weren't meant to beg for love or fight for basic respect. You were built to rise, built to speak, built to walk into rooms with the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly who they are and what they deserve. That kind of strength doesn't come from pleasing others. It comes from choosing yourself in rooms where you were once afraid to be seen. It comes from saying no without guilt, from letting go without drama, from realizing that peace is more valuable than approval. You will never become who you were meant to be by staying connected to what's been breaking you. It doesn't matter how long you've known them. It doesn't matter what they've been through. If someone repeatedly hurts you and refuses to change, they are choosing their comfort over your healing. And no amount of patience will fix what someone refuses to take responsibility for. Let them go, not because you don't care, but because you finally care enough about yourself. Start protecting your space like it's sacred, because it is. Every day you allow toxic energy into your life, you delay your progress. Every minute you waste explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, you lose momentum. Your time is not infinite, neither is your energy. So stop spending both on people who leave you emotionally bankrupt. You are allowed to walk away from anyone who makes you feel like too much or not enough. You are allowed to outgrow the people who chose not to grow with you. And you are allowed to create a life that reflects the power of someone who finally stopped asking for permission to be respected. When you stop chasing the approval of those who disrespect you, you begin attracting the kind of energy that heals you. The moment you stop trying to prove your worth to people who refuse to see it, everything changes. You stop begging for conversations. You stop waiting for apologies. You stop shrinking just to keep the peace. You start choosing silence over chaos, boundaries over guilt, and growth over comfort. This is what reclaiming your power looks like. It's not loud. It's not angry. It's not dramatic. It's calm, clear, and deeply rooted in self-respect. There is a quiet strength in walking away from what no longer aligns with your values, from the people who take more than they give, from the ones who smile to your face but secretly hope you fail, from those who make you feel like you need to earn their kindness. That is not love. That is control dressed in false loyalty. And every second you spend proving yourself to people like that is a second you lose building the life you deserve. You were not born to be tolerated. You were not made to beg for attention, or to justify your heart to people who only want access, not connection. There is a profound difference between those who stand beside you and those who stand on you. The ones who truly care don't keep you guessing. They don't weaponize silence. They don't withhold affection. They don't use your weaknesses to elevate their own sense of power. They see your light and protect it. They support your boundaries, not resent them. But you cannot receive that kind of love if your life is filled with those who drain your soul. You cannot heal while constantly defending your pain to people who don't care if you're hurting. Emotional safety is not a luxury, it's a requirement. You deserve to be around people who speak to you with honesty, not hostility, who encourage your progress, not compete with it, who don't just listen, but actually hear you. Anything less is noise, anything less is weight, anything less is a slow destruction of your spirit disguised as connection. Stop betraying yourself just to keep others comfortable. Stop accepting crumbs and calling it love. Stop pretending that it doesn't hurt when someone you respect keeps showing you they don't respect you. It's not your job to change them. It's your job to protect yourself, to stop dancing around your truth, to stop filtering your needs just to be accepted. You are allowed to demand the same energy you give. And when it's not given, you are allowed to walk away, not with bitterness but with clarity, because the moment you start acting like you know what you're worth, the world starts treating you differently. You don't get what you want, you get what you tolerate. And when you decide to tolerate nothing less than respect, you rise, every time. Respect is not something you negotiate, it is something you embody. When you start carrying yourself with unshakable self-worth, the people who cannot meet you there will naturally fall away, and that is not a loss, it's a revelation. The right people will never feel threatened by your strength. The wrong ones always will. They will call you difficult, selfish, even cold. Not because you've changed for the worse, but because you've stopped bending over backwards to meet their emotional immaturity. Growth intimidates those who refuse to grow. Your progress exposes their stagnation. And instead of rising with you, they try to pull you back into who you used to be. You are not here to live at half capacity. You are not meant to stay small to make others feel big. And you are not obligated to stay where you are not seen. If someone constantly disrespects your time, your energy, your emotions, you are allowed to shut that door. You are allowed to decide that your peace matters more than someone else's comfort. You are not rude for enforcing boundaries. You are responsible. Responsible for your life, your space, your mental clarity. The people who truly value you will never make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. The longer you entertain what insults your soul, the longer you delay your transformation. Every person you keep around out of guilt is a weight. Every relationship you maintain out of fear is a chain. And every time you choose to remain in spaces that drain you, you send a message to your subconscious that you are not worthy of better. But you are. You always have been. You just forgot. You forgot that your value is not dependent on anyone's validation, that your voice matters, even when it shakes, that your feelings are valid, even when others dismiss them. You forgot, but now it's time to remember. Your energy is currency. Spend it only where it grows. Your attention is power. Give it only where it is honored. Your love is sacred. Share it only where it is returned. Anything else is self-sabotage masked as loyalty. Stop giving your light to people who live in darkness and have no intention of changing. Some people don't want healing, they want control. And the more you compromise your standards to keep them close, the more you lose pieces of yourself. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand you. What matters is that you are no longer misunderstanding yourself. This is your life. You do not get a second one. You do not get extra time to undo years spent living for others. So stop waiting. Stop hoping they'll wake up and change. Start choosing yourself now. Start walking like someone who finally knows what they bring to the table. Because when you do, everything around you will begin to shift. Not because others changed, but because you did. And that is the beginning of everything. When you raise your standards, you force the world to meet you at a higher level. You stop accepting half-effort. You stop entertaining apologies without changed behavior. You stop tolerating those who only show up when it benefits them. And the moment you commit to never again lowering the bar for anyone, you take back control of your life. Not in loud rebellion, but in quiet certainty. You stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop chasing closure from those who caused the wound. You stop fighting for a seat at tables where your presence was never respected to begin with. The people who belong in your life will meet you with consistency. They won't drain you with mixed signals. They won't test your boundaries or weaponize your vulnerabilities. They won't make you question your worth. When someone cares, you will not have to guess. You will not have to beg. You will not have to prove anything, but until you remove those who make you feel like too much, you will never make space for those who can love all of you as you are. The standards you set are not just for others to follow, they're for you to remember who you are. Every time you justify mistreatment, you abandon yourself. Every time you remain silent to keep the peace, you chip away at your voice. And every time you allow disrespect in the name of loyalty, you reinforce the belief that you are not enough. But you are. Your ability to care deeply is not weakness. Your desire to see the good in others is not foolish, but both need protection, because when you allow the wrong people too close, they turn your strength into a weapon against you. They twist your kindness, manipulate your empathy, and exploit your willingness to forgive, and they will keep doing it until you decide they no longer get access. You are not required to keep anyone in your life who makes you feel like loving yourself is a problem. You are not required to explain your growth to those who remain stuck. And you are not required to keep pouring into cups that never once filled yours. This is not about revenge. This is not about ego. This is about freedom. You are allowed to outgrow dysfunction. You are allowed to protect your energy. You are allowed to evolve beyond the spaces that taught you to hate your reflection just to belong. Real peace begins when you stop arguing with who people have shown you they are. Real strength begins when you choose solitude over disrespect. Real growth begins when you stop waiting for someone else to see your value and decide to live like it's already undeniable. That's when the shift happens. That's when you rise without noise, without chaos, without needing anyone's permission. Because the most powerful decision you will ever make is to stop respecting those who keep trying to make you forget your own. The moment you decide to no longer tolerate disrespect, your entire reality begins to shift. The way you walk changes, the way you speak changes, the way you carry yourself in the presence of others becomes more intentional, more grounded, more certain. You stop explaining your standards like they're optional. You stop watering down your truth to make others comfortable. And you stop abandoning yourself for people who were never willing to meet you halfway. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. And alignment is what happens when your words, your energy, and your actions finally agree with your worth. When you hold people accountable for how they treat you, two things happen. The wrong ones leave, and the right ones rise. The ones who only stayed because you were easy to manipulate will vanish. The ones who were there for what you could give, not who you are, will disappear. Let them. They were never meant to go with you. You are not here to be available to everyone. You are here to become deeply available to yourself. Because the truth is, the more time you spend with people who drain you, the less time you have to become the version of you who sets the standard. Respect is not earned through silence. It's earned through truth, and truth requires courage. The courage to say no without guilt, to walk away without a fight, and to choose peace over validation. There is nothing more powerful than a person who no longer needs permission to live fully, who no longer waits for apologies before letting go, who no longer explains their healing to people who chose to break them. That kind of power is not loud, but it is unshakable. It doesn't beg, it doesn't chase, it simply exists in its own authority, and that alone changes everything. You don't need anyone to complete you. You are not missing pieces. You are not broken because someone couldn't handle your light. Their inability to love you was never a reflection of your lovability. Their failure to respect you was never proof that you weren't worthy of it. It was only proof of who they are, not of who you are. Stop tying your self-worth to how others treat you. Start tying it to how quickly you're willing to walk away when they don't. You were not made to be disrespected. You were not made to carry relationships that rest on your silence and survival. You were made to grow, to lead, to thrive. And you cannot do that while clinging to people who make you question yourself. So stop. Stop shrinking. Stop explaining. Stop handing your dignity to those who don't even know what to do with it. Start living like your presence is powerful, because it is. And when you protect your peace like it matters, the world has no choice but to meet you at the level you demand. The more you elevate your standards, the more isolated it may feel. Not because you are alone, but because you've stepped out of environments where mediocrity was accepted and disrespect was normalized. Growth often comes with distance. Distance from old habits. Distance from people who once felt essential. Distance from conversations that no longer reflect your values. That distance is not loneliness. That distance is clarity. And clarity gives you the power to see who truly respects you, not for what you offer, but for who you are when you expect nothing but decency in return. You don't rise by pleasing everyone. You rise by no longer betraying yourself for temporary peace. The peace you get from being silent in the face of disrespect is not peace. It's fear in disguise. Fear of being judged, misunderstood, or abandoned. But the price of that silence is your self-respect, and once you lose that, no relationship can fill the void. Because no matter how much someone claims to care, if they're comfortable disrespecting you, they were never invested in honoring your worth. Respect doesn't live in words. It lives in action, in tone, in consistency, in how people treat you when they don't get their way. You teach people how to treat you by what you accept, by what you respond to, and by what you allow to slide. If you ignore the patterns, you invite the pain. If you excuse the behavior, you normalize the damage. And if you stay long enough, you begin to internalize it as love. But love is not confusion. Love is not walking on eggshells. Love is not explaining basic humanity to someone over and over again. Love is clear. Respect is consistent. Safety is not supposed to be earned through suffering. If someone can only value you when you're silent, you're not respected. If they only listen when you agree, you're not seen. If they only show care when they're losing you, you're not truly loved. That kind of emotional inconsistency is manipulation wrapped in affection. And the longer you stay in that cycle, the harder it becomes to tell the difference between connection and control. You are not here to live confused. You are here to live rooted in your own knowing. That knowing is your compass, and when you listen to it, you stop entertaining confusion as love. You don't need more explanations, you need more alignment. You need people who match your energy, not drain it, who hear your boundaries, not fight them, who respect your voice even when it challenges theirs. Those people exist, but they will not enter your life until you clear space, until you decide that being alone is better than being surrounded by people who tolerate you but don't truly value you. When you finally choose self-respect over social acceptance, you stop lowering yourself to be chosen. You rise, and the right people will rise with you. The greatest shift happens the moment you realize you don't have to fight to be respected. You simply have to stop participating in spaces that don't offer it. Not every room deserves your presence. Not every relationship deserves your effort. Not every conversation deserves your energy. There's power in silence, power in walking away, power in withholding your light from those who tried to dim it. And that power is not about proving your worth to anyone else. It's about proving to yourself that your peace is no longer negotiable. You've been conditioned to believe that endurance is strength, that if you just hold on longer, try harder, give more, eventually they'll see your value. But real strength is not endurance. Real strength is discernment. The ability to recognize what deserves your time and what only drains it. The ability to walk away without bitterness. The ability to release someone without needing them to apologize first. Closure is a self-delivered gift, not a permission slip from those who hurt you. And when you understand that, you stop chasing healing through the hands of those who broke you. You are not responsible for fixing people who keep choosing to harm you. You are not responsible for teaching someone how to be decent. You are not responsible for making their chaos your home. You were not created to be their emotional punching bag, their therapist, their savior, or their excuse. You were created to grow, to expand, to love without losing yourself. And every time you accept disrespect disguised as difficulty, you move further away from your own wholeness. Start honoring your own capacity. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to be done. You are allowed to stop explaining your pain to those who never truly listened. You are allowed to protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. You don't have to yell to be heard. You don't have to argue to prove your point. Your peace is loud. Your silence is powerful. Your exit is enough. Every time you walk away from a place that dishonors you, you return to yourself. You reclaim your voice. You rebuild your confidence. You rewrite the script that said you had to settle for less, and in doing so, you send a message to your soul that you are ready to rise, that you are no longer available for anything that diminishes your dignity, that you are choosing evolution over familiarity, and that choice changes everything. The version of you who once tolerated disrespect is gone. The version of you who stayed silent to keep the peace is no longer in control. You've outgrown the environments that made you question your worth, and now you step forward with a new standard, one that says, if you cannot treat me with respect, you do not get access to me at all. Respect is not a favor you give to people who violate your boundaries. It is not a reward for proximity. It is not something you continue offering out of fear, guilt, or habit. Respect is sacred. It is the foundation of every healthy connection. Without it, there is no trust. Without it, there is no safety. Without it, there is no love. So when someone repeatedly disrespects you, they are choosing to destroy the very bridge that allows any real relationship to exist. And once that bridge is gone, you are not obligated to rebuild it just because you missed the view. Missing someone doesn't mean you owe them your dignity. It doesn't mean you have to invite them back into your life. Missing someone is human. But returning to them after they've shown you their true character, that is self-abandonment. And you cannot become who you're meant to be while you're still clinging to who they wanted you to remain. They didn't reject you. They rejected your evolution. They rejected your voice. They rejected the boundaries you put in place to protect your peace. And by doing so, they revealed everything you needed to know about how little they value you. You don't need to wait for another moment of disrespect to confirm what your intuition has already been screaming. One moment is enough. One violation, one betrayal, one instance of repeated disregard. That's all it takes. When someone shows you that your pain doesn't move them, your voice doesn't reach them, and your boundaries don't matter to them, believe them. Don't explain. Don't beg. Don't wait. Act. Because every moment you delay your decision to walk away, you deepen your wound. And the longer you stay in denial, the longer it takes to heal. You have nothing to prove to anyone who can't respect your presence. You don't have to make them understand. You don't have to convince them that you deserve better. Your worth is not dependent on their ability to see it. It exists with or without their recognition. And the moment you begin living like that truth is non-negotiable, your entire world changes. You stop shrinking to fit into spaces you've outgrown. You stop watering down your standards to accommodate people who refuse to rise. You stop mistaking consistency for commitment when all they've done is consistently hurt you. Every time you forgive what continues to break you, you send a message to your soul that pain is normal. But it's not. You were not born to tolerate emotional chaos. You were not made to feel anxious in the presence of people who claim to care. You were not created to question your worth in the name of love. You are here to rise, And rising means recognizing that respect is not just something you want, it is something you require. Not tomorrow, not when they change. Now, because anything less than respect is not love, it's control. And you no longer live under that illusion. Respect is not optional. It is the baseline. It is the bare minimum required for anyone to stand beside you. Without it, there is nothing to build on. No matter how close the bond may seem, if respect is missing, everything else is an illusion. You cannot build a future with someone who refuses to honor your boundaries. You cannot grow beside people who mock your healing, dismiss your voice, or compete with your progress. And you cannot keep allowing emotional access to those who treat you like an afterthought. The longer you entertain what devalues you, the more disconnected you become from who you really are. The truth is, you don't need their validation. You need your alignment. You don't need their apology. You need your peace. You don't need to win them over. You need to walk away from whatever keeps you doubting your worth. There is nothing noble about staying in environments that kill your spirit. There is nothing admirable about silencing your truth to avoid conflict. And there is no reward for loyalty to people who continue to show you that your presence is only appreciated when it serves them. Let that pattern end with you. The person who disrespects you is not confused. They know exactly what they're doing. They know how to be kind. They know how to listen. They know how to show up. They just choose not to when it comes to you, and that choice reveals everything. Stop making excuses for people who are fully aware of the pain they cause. Stop defending their behavior as a reflection of their stress, their past, or their confusion. Their reasons may explain it, but they do not excuse it. When someone chooses disrespect repeatedly, it's not a mistake, it's a mindset. You deserve to be in spaces where your silence is never required to be loved, where your boundaries are met with understanding, not resistance, where your emotions are honored, not invalidated. You don't have to harden yourself just to be safe. You don't have to numb your heart to be accepted. You don't have to shrink your light to be included. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to speak your truth. You are allowed to leave any room, any relationship, any cycle that demands your self-abandonment. The moment you stop tolerating what drains you, you begin attracting what aligns with you. But that requires courage, the courage to release the familiar, the courage to stand alone if needed, the courage to walk away, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself. That is the kind of strength that changes your life, not the strength to hold on, but the strength to let go. Because nothing real, nothing lasting, and nothing healthy begins with disrespect. And you are done accepting anything less than the standard your soul was always meant to live by. Every time you choose to walk away from disrespect, you rewrite your identity. You stop being someone who tolerates the bare minimum and start becoming someone who expects alignment, consistency, and integrity. You stop lowering the standard just to be accepted and start raising your energy to be respected. Because respect isn't just about how others treat you. It's about how you treat yourself. The people around you are often just a mirror reflecting the level of self-worth you project. When you respect yourself deeply, you naturally repel anything that contradicts that truth. Disrespect doesn't always show up loudly. Sometimes it's subtle. It's in the constant dismissals, the unanswered messages, the way they listen without actually hearing you, the way they show up only when they want something. It's in the way they make you feel invisible, without ever saying it directly. These aren't accidents. These are choices. And each time you stay silent, each time you pretend not to notice, you send a message back. This is acceptable. But it isn't. Your silence is not protection. It's permission. The longer you stay quiet, the more you lose your voice. You do not need to be cruel to be clear. You do not need to be loud to be powerful. Sometimes the most radical act of self-respect is simply removing your presence. No explanation. No drama. No emotional performance. Just absence. Let them feel the void your presence once filled. Let them sit with what they took for granted. Because once you step away, you begin to remember who you are outside of their chaos. You remember what peace feels like. You remember what it means to be whole without needing to be chosen. You've spent enough time shrinking yourself for people who never once thought to expand for you. You've explained your feelings to people who only listen to reply, not to understand. You've tried to earn love in places that could barely offer basic kindness. That season is over. Your growth has cost too much to return to what once drained you. You don't need more time to decide. You need more truth. And the truth is this: if it costs you your peace, your voice, your worth, it's not worth it. No connection is worth losing yourself over. There is freedom in finally realizing that you are enough without needing to be tolerated. You are not here to be half seen or half loved. You are here to be honored, fully, and without hesitation. The right people will never ask you to sacrifice your dignity for the sake of keeping them. They will never make you feel like you're too much for simply having standards. You don't need everyone to respect you. You just need to stop respecting those who prove, again and again, that they are not capable of honoring who you are. That decision doesn't make you cold, it makes you conscious. And consciousness is where your power begins. When you stop giving your energy to those who continuously misuse it, everything starts to change. You begin to reclaim parts of yourself that were buried beneath guilt, self-doubt, and emotional exhaustion. You start to feel what it's like to be in your own presence without constantly adjusting to someone else's dysfunction. You breathe deeper, you walk lighter. You begin to see clearly the difference between connection and control, between love and manipulation, between attention and intention. And that clarity becomes the foundation of your transformation. Some people are addicted to chaos, they thrive in conflict, they feed off drama, they mask their insecurity with dominance. Their power comes from keeping others uncertain, constantly guessing, constantly doubting. But you weren't born to be someone's emotional playground. You weren't meant to dance around other people's volatility just to keep the peace. If someone's version of love requires you to tolerate mood swings, endure silent treatments, or prove your loyalty through constant sacrifice, that's not love. That's control dressed in emotional guilt. You are not hard to love. You are not too much. You are not asking for too much. The right people will meet your standards without flinching because they will already be living by those values. You won't have to explain what basic respect looks like. You won't have to justify your boundaries. You won't have to beg for emotional presence. You won't feel like you're constantly performing just to stay relevant in someone else's world. Real respect doesn't need convincing. It's felt. It's known. It's demonstrated through action, not just words. The people who refuse to grow will always label your growth as a threat. They will tell you you've changed. They'll say you're cold, distant, ungrateful. But that's only because your healing exposes their unwillingness to evolve. You're not responsible for staying small just to keep others comfortable. You're not obligated to dim your awareness so others don't feel insecure in your light. You don't have to downplay your needs to maintain a false sense of harmony. Your evolution will trigger those who benefit from your stagnation. Let it. There comes a point when you stop explaining yourself, not out of bitterness but out of maturity. You realize not everyone deserves access to your process. Not everyone is meant to understand your growth, and not everyone will rise with you. Some were only ever meant to teach you what not to accept, and that lesson, painful as it is, becomes the reason you stop settling, stop chasing, and stop negotiating with people who never had the capacity to value you. Respect is not a gift you give others while starving yourself. It's a mirror of how deeply you've learned to honor your own worth. When you finally see that, you stop waiting for people to change. You stop hoping they'll rise. You rise. You move, you separate, and that single decision becomes the first step into the life you were always meant to live, free, grounded, and no longer available for anything less than truth. Healing demands that you stop entertaining people who benefit from your confusion. Anyone who leaves you constantly doubting yourself, questioning your worth, or second-guessing your instincts is not operating from love. They're operating from control, and control thrives in uncertainty. The less sure you are of who you are, the easier you are to manipulate. But the moment you choose clarity over approval, you become unshakable. You begin to trust the signals within you that say this is not safe, this is not healthy, this is not right. And once that inner trust is activated, your tolerance for disrespect dies. You were not made to exist in relationships where your needs are considered burdens, where your voice is labeled as conflict, where your feelings are dismissed as weakness. That is not connection. That is survival under emotional oppression. And the longer you stay in those dynamics, the more you forget your own strength. You adapt to dysfunction so well that you begin to believe chaos is normal. But just because you've learned to survive the fire doesn't mean you belong in the flames. You're allowed to walk away from the smoke, the noise, and the pain. You're allowed to choose peace over chaos, even when chaos is familiar. When you finally decide to raise your standard, the world around you shifts. Not because people change, but because your tolerance does. What you once excused becomes unacceptable. What you once chased loses its appeal. You begin to see clearly how often you settled for less, just to feel something close to love. But now, your soul demands truth. You don't want performance. You don't want promises without proof. You want alignment. And that means letting go of those who only show up when it's convenient, who only value you when they fear losing you, who only speak well of you when you're doing exactly what they want. Respect is not negotiable. It's not a favor. It's not something you should have to earn through silence, sacrifice, or shrinking. It is the baseline, the starting point, the bare minimum for any connection that deserves access to your heart. And anyone who makes you feel like you have to work for it is already showing you how little they regard your worth. Stop trying to decode mixed signals. Stop trying to find meaning in inconsistency. People show you who they are and how they treat you when there's nothing in it for them. Pay attention. Their patterns are louder than their promises. This journey you're on isn't about becoming harder. It's about becoming clearer. Not colder, but wiser. You're not losing your ability to love. You're losing your capacity to betray yourself in the name of love. And that shift will change everything. Because when you begin to honor yourself as deeply as you once tried to be honored by others, you'll attract a life that mirrors that same level of respect. Not just from others, but from within. And that is where lasting power begins. The moment you stop tolerating people who drain your energy is the moment your power begins to return. There is a quiet strength in refusing to entertain those who make you feel small, unsure, or invisible. You don't need to argue with them. You don't need to explain your worth. You simply need to decide that their presence is no longer aligned with your growth. That decision alone creates space for clarity, for peace, for transformation. The most powerful boundary you will ever set is the one where you stop giving your energy to those who treat it like it's disposable. There are people who only show up to take, who see your kindness as currency, who mistake your empathy for weakness. But you are not obligated to carry what was never yours to hold. You are not responsible for fixing people who refuse to fix themselves. You are not here to be an emotional punching bag for anyone who hasn't faced their own pain. Your role is not to rescue those who exploit your capacity to care. Real love does not drain you. Real connection does not leave you questioning your own reflection. You are not too much. You are just giving too much to people who offered too little in return. Respect is not earned through silence. It is not achieved by constantly proving yourself to people who refuse to see you. Respect begins when you respect yourself enough to walk away from patterns that keep you stuck. It starts when you realize your value is not determined by how many times you forgive the same behavior, how often you stay when you should leave, or how much pain you're willing to endure just to keep the peace. You are not a container for someone else's chaos. You are not here to absorb mistreatment and call it endurance. You are here to evolve. Every time you choose peace over chaos, every time you protect your energy, every time you say no to what wounds you, you are reprogramming your mind for self-respect. That is not selfish. That is survival. That is sanity. That is what rising looks like. And not everyone will like the version of you that no longer bends to keep them comfortable. Some will call you cold. Some will call you distant. Let them. Because the version of you who once tolerated what broke you is gone. And in their place stands someone who knows that freedom begins with boundaries. This is how transformation begins. Not with grand declarations, but with quiet decisions. The decision to no longer give access to people who prove they can't handle it. The decision to stop hoping that someone will change while they continue to show you who they are. The decision to put your healing above their comfort. You are not walking away to be cruel. You are walking away because you finally understand that you were never meant to live in emotional debt. And now, you're choosing emotional wealth instead. When you stop respecting people who constantly test your boundaries, you stop betraying yourself. Every time you let someone cross the line without consequence, you teach your mind that your peace doesn't matter. You program your nervous system to live in tension. You invite stress to live where calm should be. But when you reclaim the right to draw firm lines, you tell your soul it's safe. You tell your future it's protected. You create a world where your needs are not an afterthought, where your voice is not muffled by guilt, where your worth is not conditional on someone else's comfort. There are people who disguise manipulation as concern. They'll question your decisions, not to understand but to control. They'll invalidate your choices with smiles. They'll plant doubt and call it advice. But if someone truly cared for you, they'd support your growth, not sabotage it. They'd celebrate your confidence, not undermine it. Respect is not about agreeing with everything you do. It's about honoring your right to do it. It's about being secure enough to let you lead your life without needing to dictate your direction. Anyone who can't handle your autonomy doesn't deserve access to your presence. You do not owe tolerance to people who use your openness as an entry point to manipulate. Your empathy is not a weakness. It's a weapon in the right hands, but a trap in the wrong ones. And you will never rise if you keep shrinking to make others feel big. You are not created to live beneath your potential, to soothe the insecurity of those who fear your strength. You are not responsible for their fragility. You are responsible for your truth. And your truth is that you are meant to expand, not shrink, not fold, not disappear. Stop giving power to voices that belittle your vision. Not everyone has the capacity to understand your path. Some only want to keep you where they are, because your growth threatens the comfort of their stagnation. But you are not here to live a life of emotional compromise. You are here to become something real, something solid, something that cannot be shaken by the approval or disapproval of others. That level of self-respect only comes when you stop seeking validation from those who devalue you. This is your line in the sand, the moment where you stop entertaining manipulation disguised as care, where you stop mistaking control for connection, where you stop confusing proximity with loyalty. You have the right to close doors without announcing it. You have the right to protect your time, your focus, your dreams. You don't need permission to put yourself first. You only need the courage to let go of what's holding you back. Because once you stop respecting what drains you, you start honoring what builds you. And that shift changes everything. That shift becomes the foundation of your rise. Silence is not always peace. There are people who will use your silence as their permission. They'll take your quiet tolerance as consent to walk over your dignity, your values, your energy. But silence does not mean weakness, and peace does not mean surrender. You are allowed to raise your voice, not to argue, but to protect what you're building. You are allowed to create friction when others threaten your growth. You are not here to be agreeable. You are here to be aligned, with truth, with integrity, with the person you are becoming. You must stop respecting people who constantly shift blame to avoid responsibility. These are the ones who always play the victim when confronted. They twist facts to suit their narrative. They refuse to apologize because their ego won't let them. But emotional maturity starts with accountability. Growth begins when you can say, "I was wrong." And if someone never takes ownership of their actions, they cannot be trusted with your time. Because without accountability, there can be no healing, no progress, no real connection. You can't build anything real on a foundation of denial. There are people who will only support you when you are beneath them. The moment you rise, their energy changes. Their compliments turn into backhanded remarks. Their encouragement fades into passive resistance. That's not love. That's not friendship. That's competition hiding behind a mask. And you need to stop calling it loyalty. Real support doesn't feel like judgment. It doesn't feel conditional. It doesn't vanish when you grow. Respecting people who can't clap for you unless you're losing is a betrayal of your destiny. You were not made to keep small-minded people comfortable. Every time you hold back to protect someone's insecurity, you abandon your own evolution. Every time you dim your fire for someone who refuses to rise with you, you delay your future. And at some point, you have to choose, protect their comfort or honor your calling. Because you can't do both. You can't keep watering dead roots hoping they'll grow. You have to let go of what doesn't nourish your purpose. Your energy is sacred. Who you allow into your space determines the direction of your life. If you keep letting in people who drain you, discourage you, or disrespect you, you are slowing down your own transformation. You are teaching yourself to settle. You are building your life around dysfunction. And that is not the life you were meant to live. You were meant to rise, to lead, to break cycles, not repeat them. Shift happens when you decide that your peace is more important than their approval, that your growth matters more than their comfort, that your life cannot wait for people who refuse to grow with you. The moment you stop respecting what diminishes you, you begin to embody the strength that has been buried under silence. That is the moment your life begins to change, not because they changed, but because you finally did. You don't owe anyone your stagnation. You don't owe anyone the version of you that makes them feel more secure in their complacency. Growth is not betrayal. Evolution is not arrogance. It is self-respect in motion. And if your progress makes someone uncomfortable, that is their reflection to confront, not your burden to carry. You are not responsible for managing other people's discomfort with your potential. Your responsibility is to the fire within you, the one that keeps asking for more, that refuses to die quietly just to please those who have settled for less. There is nothing noble in shrinking to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. There is no honor in silencing your greatness to blend in with mediocrity. Every time you compromise your light to avoid rejection, you reject yourself. Every time you play small to avoid being seen as too much, you abandon the very force that makes you unstoppable. The world does not need more people who blend in. The world needs more people who are unapologetically alive, bold in their truth, fearless in their power, relentless in their pursuit. You weren't meant to be tolerated. You were meant to be felt. And those who can't handle your intensity are not your audience. The right people won't ask you to tone it down. They'll rise to meet you. But until then, you must protect your energy like your life depends on it. Because it does. Your energy is your currency. Your time is your investment. Stop making deposits into people who only withdraw from your spirit. Your dreams are not casual. Your vision is not optional. You don't wake up every day to merely survive. You are here to dominate every limitation that's ever told you to sit down and be quiet. This is the season for disruption, the disruption of cycles that have kept you emotionally bankrupt, the disruption of relationships that never evolve, the disruption of beliefs that were never yours to begin with. You must break free from the mental cages that tell you to wait, to doubt, to ask for permission. There is no more waiting. There is no more asking. There is only moving forward with everything that is still burning inside of you. It's not too late. You didn't miss it. The time is now, and you are ready. If it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. If it costs you your identity, it's not worth the illusion of belonging. You are not made to be edited. You are not made to live half alive in someone else's expectations. Every time you rise, you raise the standard. Every time you speak, you reclaim your voice. Every time you choose yourself, you remind the world who you are. Let them misunderstand you. Let them doubt you. Let them whisper. You are not here to be understood. You are here to become undeniable. And that requires a level of conviction so loud, the world can't unhear it. Keep building, keep burning, keep becoming.